This is a picture demonstrating the catalase test, which is pretty basic, but let's take a moment to discuss this. This test is done by obtaining a sample of the organism of interest and placing a layer of the organism on a glass slide. Next, hydrogen peroxide is added on top of the organism. If the organism is catalase positive, then it will produce bubbles as the catalase enzyme converts hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. So as you can see from the image, bubbles are being produced right here, which means that the organism is catalase positive. Because this is an old Western scene, we thought it would be fitting to show a tumbleweed in the background getting blown around in the hot and dry climate. The tumbleweed will be our symbol for tumbling motility. So Listeria exhibits tumbling motility in broth. This is kind of hard to show with a still picture, so we haven't included an image about the test in this lecture. However, if you're interested in what this looks like, it's pretty easy to find if you just Google Listeria tumbling motility. Alright, one of the antagonists to the scene is this guy holding a whip. The whip cracking will be our symbol for the rocket tail formation that occurs via actin polymerization. We could have included a random rocket ship in this image, but that wouldn't have worked very well with this era. So we thought it would be more fitting to include a whip cracking because the sound of the crack goes incredibly fast, kind of like how a rocket goes incredibly fast. Also, the whip looks kind of like a tail, just like Listeria forms rocket tails. So this whip cracking and the resemblance of a tail should help you remember that Listeria forms rocket tails via actin polymerization. Very simply put, this just means that Listeria can use the host's cytoskeleton to facilitate intracellular movement as well as movement between cells. In order to reinforce this idea of movement, we've included another antagonist shown inside of the building with a gun. He was moving around inside the house until he found this nice window where he could provide some cover fire for his friend. The fact that he's inside the house should help you remember that the organism can move around inside of the cell. So the rocket tails facilitate intracellular movement and cell-to-cell spread across cell membranes. Again, inside the house, inside the cell. Next, notice that we've shown the guy with the whip holding an asthma inhaler. Just like in other videos, we've included it in this image to help you remember that Listeria is an aerobic organism. Okay, now let's turn our attention to the right side of the image. You'll notice that the building shown here doesn't have a roof. So you could say that the characters we'll include on this part of the image are partially inside of a building, but still partially outside. We've shown the building this way to help you remember that Listeria is a facultative intracellular organism.